It was December 20th, 1943. High above northern Germany, in the freezing winter air, 2nd Lieutenant Charlie Brown was fighting to keep his B-17 bomber in formation. The aircraft was called Ye Old Pub. Brown and his crew were part of the massive American bomber force heading toward Bremen, where they were ordered to strike the Focke-Wulf aircraft factory. The mission was already dangerous. German fighters were waiting, and the American bombers knew that reaching the target would mean running a gauntlet of flak and enemy aircraft. Brown's B-17 was near the front of the formation. Behind him stretched hundreds of American bombers. Then, shortly after 11 a.m., the radio suddenly came alive. Bandits! German fighters were attacking the bomber formation. American P-47 Thunderbolts moved to intercept them as the B-17s continued toward their target. Brown had no choice but to keep flying. The mission came first. At around 11:30 a.m., the bombers approached Bremen. Then the German anti-aircraft guns opened fire. Black explosions began appearing around the formation. Flak burst after flak burst filled the sky. Then Ye Old Pub was hit. Several explosions rocked the B-17. The plexiglass nose was shattered. Cold air rushed through the aircraft. The crew immediately began checking their systems. Brown's co-pilot, Spencer "Pinky" Luke, delivered terrible news. Engine number 2 was losing oil pressure. Brown looked toward the damaged engine. It had been hit. Shut it down. One of their 4 engines was now dead. But there was worse to come. Just before the bomb release, the crew discovered a huge hole in the right wing. And engine number 4 began behaving erratically. The ground crew had warned Brown before the mission that the engine already had problems. Now the bomber was flying toward one of the most heavily defended targets in Germany with its aircraft badly damaged. Brown and his crew reduced power and pressed on. They had one job: drop the bombs. The bomb bay doors opened. Ye Old Pub released its bombs over the Focke-Wulf factory. Then Brown turned the damaged bomber north. Their plan was to reach the coast and eventually turn west toward England. But Ye Old Pub could no longer keep up with the formation. The bomber began falling behind. Another damaged B-17 was nearby, trailing smoke from its engines. Then Brown heard a distress call. The other bomber was losing altitude. From the ball turret, Sergeant Sam Blackford watched as it disappeared into the clouds below. Then he saw an orange flash. The damaged bomber was gone. There was no time to think about it. More German fighters were coming. Bandits! 5 Bf-109s appeared from behind the clouds. Then another warning came. FW-190s were approaching from ahead. The crippled Ye Old Pub was now surrounded. 2 FW-190 fighters broke away from the formation and headed straight toward the B-17. Brown pushed the bomber toward them. The guns opened fire. One of the German fighters attacked Ye Old Pub and struck the aircraft. But the bomber kept flying. Then Sergeant Bertram "Frenchy" Coulombe opened fire from the turret. The German fighter went down. The second fighter followed. Navigator Al-Doc Sadek also opened fire. The second FW-190 was destroyed. But the fight was far from over. Pinky reported another disaster. Engine number 3 had been damaged. It was now stuck at reduced power. Of the 4 engines, only one was operating normally. Ye Old Pub was barely holding together. Then the Bf-109s attacked again. Fighters attacking. 6 o'clock level. The German fighters came in from behind. But Brown's gunners had another problem. Their weapons were freezing. Ice had formed on the guns. Some of the crew could barely fire back. Then the B-17's rudder was hit. Part of it was blown away. The aircraft shook violently. And then came the worst moment of the battle. The tail gunner position was struck. Hugh Eckenrode was killed. A shell also exploded near the waist gunners. Alex Russian Yelisenko was badly wounded. Blood filled the damaged aircraft. Then enemy fire struck the cockpit. The oxygen system was damaged. The Old Pub suddenly lurched. The aircraft began to spin toward the ground. Brown and Pinky lost consciousness. The B-17 fell. Thousands of feet disappeared beneath them. For several terrifying moments, nobody was flying the aircraft. Then Brown slowly regained consciousness. He looked down. The ground was getting closer. He grabbed the controls. He pulled back. The bomber responded. Barely. The old pub had survived the fall, but it was still badly damaged. Brown had almost no control. Several crew members were wounded. One of their engines was completely dead. Another was badly damaged. And German fighters were still hunting them. Then something unexpected happened. The crippled B-17 flew past a German airfield. A Luftwaffe pilot named Franz Stigler was there. Stigler had already been involved in combat. His Bf-109 had even taken damage. But when he saw the American bomber, he took off after it. To Stigler, it should have been an easy victory. The B-17 was almost defenseless. Its rear gunner was dead. Large sections of the aircraft had been blown apart. Smoke and damage covered the bomber. But as Stigler approached, he realized something. This was not a normal bomber. This aircraft was barely flying. He could see the wounded American crew inside. He could see the destruction. And then he remembered something his commanding officer had taught him. Honor mattered. Stigler later recalled that shooting down the crippled bomber would have been like shooting at a man in a parachute. He could have fired, but he didn't. Instead, he flew alongside the B-17. Inside the old pub, the American crew couldn't understand what was happening. They expected the German fighter to kill them. Instead, Stigler stayed beside them. He looked into the cockpit. Brown looked back. For a moment, the two pilots saw each other. Enemy pilots. Thousands of feet above Germany. Neither knew the other's name. Neither knew what would happen next. Stigler tried to signal to Brown. He pointed toward the ground. He wanted the Americans to land. But Brown refused. The crew feared that landing in Germany meant becoming prisoners of war. Stigler tried again. Still no. Then he did something even more extraordinary. He continued flying beside the B-17. He escorted the damaged American bomber away from the German coastline. Below them were German anti-aircraft positions. But the German guns did not fire. The American bomber was flying beside a German fighter. Stigler was protecting his enemy. Eventually, the B-17 reached the North Sea. Neutral Sweden was closer than England. Stigler tried to communicate with the Americans again. He gestured toward Sweden. But the exhausted American crew didn't understand. Brown still believed the German pilot might be trying to force them to land. Eventually, Stigler realized he could do nothing more. He looked at Brown one last time. Then he raised his hand in salute and turned away. The German fighter disappeared into the distance. Brown watched him go. He had no idea why the enemy had spared them. The old pub continued west. The bomber was losing altitude. It was barely flying. Then two American P-47s appeared. They guided the damaged B-17 toward an airfield. Against all odds, ye old pub made it back to England. The bomber was almost destroyed, but it had survived. Most importantly, most of its crew had survived. One man had not. Sergeant Hugh Eckie Eckenrode had been killed during the attack. Back at the airfield, Brown and his crew were debriefed. Brown told his superiors what had happened. A German fighter had caught them, but instead of shooting them down, the German pilot had allowed them to escape. The story was not widely publicized. A German pilot deliberately sparing an American bomber was not the kind of story military commanders necessarily wanted circulating during wartime. Brown kept the identity of the German pilot to himself. Decades passed. The war ended. The American and German pilots went their separate ways. But Brown never forgot the man who had spared his life. In 1986, Brown began searching for the German pilot. He wanted to know who had been flying that Bf-109. Years later, in 1990, Brown received a letter. The sender was Franz Stigler. The German pilot had survived the war and eventually emigrated to Canada. After nearly half a century, Brown finally knew the name of the man who had spared him. The two men eventually met. And when they saw each other again, something extraordinary happened. They didn't meet as enemies. They met as friends. Brown and Stigler remained close for the rest of their lives. Their story was later brought to a wider audience through Adam Mako's book A Higher Call. Inside a book Stigler gave Brown was a message that explained exactly what the encounter had meant to him. He remembered losing his own brother during the war, and he regarded Charlie Brown as something more than an enemy pilot. He regarded him as a brother. Neither man forgot what happened on December 20th, 1943. Brown had survived because a German pilot chose not to pull the trigger. Stigler had given up a chance for another victory because he believed the damaged bomber was no longer a legitimate target. Years later, Brown asked Stigler why he had done it. Stigler's answer was simple. He believed there was no honor in killing a helpless man. Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler eventually became close friends. Then, in 2008, both men died within months of each other. Two former enemies. Two pilots. Two men whose lives had been connected by one extraordinary moment above Germany. On that freezing December day in 1943, Charlie Brown believed he was looking at the German fighter that would finally kill him. Instead, he was looking at the man who would save his life. Franz Stigler never became the famous enemy pilot who shot down Charlie Brown's bomber. He became something far more remarkable. The enemy who chose not to shoot. And that is the story of 0 Hour WW2.